DeRogatis of the DeRogatis team. It is your time to shine, my friend.
To remind me, I needed a sweatshirt in here.
Oh, Will you click it up one?
No, I'm kidding.
Are you sure? Oh, okay, okay.
No, she's not. Look it up.
Pick it up. I was just trying to be nice.
So I know Gary, being on our education committee, had asked Stacy, so we want to start doing Meet a Mega once a month at the office. Some in our office, some will be at other offices. But you've been in the business for a minute and just wanted her to share just some things about how she got to where she is today. Because obviously she is a top team and is a husband and wife team. And also Caitlin, your daughter, is on your team. And just wanted to let you guys hear from somebody who we've all had day one and started somewhere, and what that path has looked like. So my first question is, thank you for being here. What made you decide to get into the best industry in the world?
Well, I had always been in the home industry. So I graduated from college with a degree in interior design and started out in that field. And from interior design, then I was a manufacturer sales rep in the home furnishings industry. So everything was always home related. And it was just kind of always in the back of my mind and Pat's mind that, oh, maybe someday we'd sell houses instead of furniture, or we would. And so it was just sort of always there, that
Makes
interest
sense.
in homes and architecture and design. So
Love that. Managing expectations is a big conversation right now. How do you manage client expectations when the market is uncertain or slowing down?
So one thing that has been key for us throughout our whole business is managing expectations and being able to be very transparent right from the beginning with our clients, not being fearful of telling them the truth. For example, at a listing appointment, I've always said to sellers, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear to get your home sold. And I think a lot of agents sit down and they're coming from a place of fear. So they're just saying what they think the seller wants to hear. But tell them what they want to hear because I want this listing. If I tell them what they want to hear, I'll get my sign in the yard. And that doesn't serve anyone. So we just always are fully transparent and tell them what they need to hear. And sometimes those are uncomfortable conversations about how their house looks, how it's going to show. They're overpriced or whatever it might be.
Got it. Love it. How do you give advice to buyers and sellers right now that's different from where we were a year ago in this market?
Again, for sellers, just being very transparent, telling them right from the beginning, having those difficult conversations up front, talking to them about pricing strategies, staging, where the market is, letting them know that, yes, I know your neighbor who sold a few months ago, had multiple offers in 3 days, but, just letting them know that sometimes we all run into this. I think sellers are late to the game and they're basing it on what their friends and neighbors did over the last 6 to 8 months, but they're just now ready. And I just tell them, I'm sorry, like that ship has sailed, if that's the case.
Right, right.
And with buyers, telling, helping them to be ready, prepared, they have their pre-approval, understand the difference between must-haves and would like to have, and having some very clear definition around that. Setting expectations with them about availability to see homes, my availability, the seller's availability, that we all have to be a little bit flexible, but work within
The boundaries.
these boundaries. And then they've got to be ready to make quick decisions. So for us, like one of the worst things that can happen for us, in my opinion, is a new seller, maybe their first time buyer. We go and show them the first house and they love it and think they want to write an offer. That's terrible. Like some agents might think, wow, sweet, this was so easy. It makes everybody uncomfortable. And then you have a buyer who starts to say, should I really make an offer on the very first house I look at? So we have those conversations up front
Mhm.
at the buyer consultation, like, this could happen. And here's what I want you to do if it does happen. And you may need to make an offer,
Mhm.
but you might also just be caught up in the excitement of it.
The
So
emotion.
how do we know the difference? And just trying to have those conversations up front so that we can, again, manage those expectations.
Mhm.
It's a scary place for a buyer to think, I'm about to buy the very first house I've ever looked at. But sometimes it is the answer.
Mhm.
It's weird, but, so they need to be prepared for that.
Yeah, so on the buyer side, so if when you're showing the first home and that's the home and they're like, oh, this is it, and they're like, probably need to look at another one. Then they realize the first one was their dream home and it's already under contract. Managing those expectations. Yeah, how do you talk to them about that? So, yeah.
Well, that's when the psychology degree comes in.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a real hard, a real easy,
Depends on the
answer to that.
situation.
Kind of depends on the situation. Pat and I recently had a conversation that happened to one of our buyers, and we just kind of said, looks like they had to learn a tough lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, and now just everybody's got to buckle up. We may be here a while, but
Mhm.
they needed to have offered on that house and they didn't. We take them back through, this was your list of must-haves. It even has a few of your would like to haves, take them back through, what was your motivation, what were your wants, what were your desires? Definitely don't make it about us.
Right.
And once we take them through all of that, if they still can't pull the trigger, there's just not a lot we can do with that.
Mhm. And I'm guessing it's the same thing for listings so you have a listing and you get a few offers and they are expecting, or they want full price and they're not willing to negotiate, and then people move on and then it sits. Same conversations. Yeah, just managing those expectations as well.
Try to avoid saying, I told you so, but.
I don't encourage that.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
it is.
Listen to me next time. I'm the professional. I'm the expert. All right, let's talk about lead generation. How has your lead generation strategy changed in the current market? Or has it? And what does that look like?
So this is a tough one for me from the traditional definition of lead generation. I see a lot of faces of people that I don't know. We've been doing this for 21 years. So we are in a more fortunate position of not having to lead gen by definition.
Door
the way-
knocker.
Door
yeah,
knocking. Cold calling, things of that nature. So I own that we're in a fortunate position where that is concerned. But I did it all in the day, well, except for door knocking, I never did that one. You just find your lane and you stay in it, and door knocking was not my lane. I did it once, I knocked on one door ever in my career, am I allowed to say that? And it worked, and I never did it again, because I hated it that much.
Do all the other things, not that.
I did, I was like, oh, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Yes, I got the sale, ultimately it resulted in a sale because they pointed across the street and that was the house we bought. And I mean, I have like chills talking about it. It was not for me. So, I do a lot of other things really good. I'll never be up here doing your door knocking class.
Mhm.
That's Eileen.
That is, which is next week.
I'm good for Eileen.
Yeah, which is next week. Yeah, and it goes back to like, find your lane, like whatever your lane is, you're gonna know real quick whether you're like, oh, I can do this is fun, or I'm like Stacy said, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and know what you love, because then it doesn't feel like a job anymore. Yeah.
So for us, lead generation has always been really loving on our people. It's client relationships, it's staying connected with them all the way through the process and then beyond. We friend almost all of our clients on Facebook. If you don't like them, don't friend them. So I wouldn't do it day one. Sometimes it's just like, ugh. Don't get home from the listing appointment, I'm gonna like them on Facebook and then regret that decision because I don't unfollow people.
Mhm.
But we stay connected and we follow them through their lives. And then we have this personal relationship and we're sending sympathy cards and we're sending birthday cards and we're sending, a link to a free Starbucks on me because they posted something about having a tough day, like just constantly staying in their lives and
Mhm.
showing up. That's our lead gen. And during a shifting market, we just double down on that.
Yeah, love on them even more.
Yeah.
Love that. How do you maintain a steady pipeline of business when transaction volume slows?
Kind of the same
Same thing.
thing.
Mhm.
I mean, you just have to put the time in up front to where the shifts don't feel quite as difficult. We feel them. We sit at night and look at each other. There's a lot of shop talk in our house. And say, okay, like, is this it? Like, are we really, like, is that the last house we're ever gonna sell? Cause it's super quiet out here. So we feel it, but we have that steady base of repeat, past clients,
Mhm.
repeat and referral clients. We have, what I would consider real, business in the pipeline right now, like of actual active buyers and sellers. We have about 10 pieces of business in the pipeline. Very heavy on buyers right now. I made a conscious effort to look. I have one client that I didn't know from a previous connection. So I have one client that found us from a listing. They looked us up, looked up the listing, or found the listing on Zillow, saw who the listing agent was, then did their research on me. She was very prepared when she called me and said, hey, we're looking for a buyer's agent. I like what I found online. I saw you because of your listing on this street. But other than that, every piece of business that we're working with right now is repeat or referral business. Some of which, it's a referred client from a past client. And that past client was our client because they were referred to us. So I can go way down the line
Go back and
from
track
a
it
lot of
down.
people. And
Yep.
and 21 years later, that's what happens. But it all started from deep relationships,
Mhm.
continuing to love on people some 20 years later.
Yeah, I want to hit on what you just said, talking about that this client, that this new client did research on you. You guys know that everybody's gonna Google you, right? And everybody's gonna stalk your social media, especially if somebody that doesn't know you, likes you. At this point, clearly does not trust you. What is your story? So this got presented to us a few weeks ago. Does your story tell people what you do as a career? That you serve families and that you help them buy and sell a home? Does your photos say that? Does it tell a personal story that looks like somebody that's relatable? And I think talking about your branding and what that looks like. I don't recommend that your photo be of you in a bikini as your Facebook main picture. I mean, if you're a bathing suit model, you look amazing. You do you, boo. But if somebody's looking to sell $1 million home, like, I think just knowing what your story is and being confident in that story, and if that is your story, own it. Whatever your story is, but just be consistent with it and make sure that you have researched your own story to know what it looks like, because I promise you other people are. So just on a side note.
Yeah,
Because
I totally agree with that. And we try to, I think I'm pretty authentic and transparent on Facebook about who I am. And you've taken even a casual glance at my Facebook page, I love to travel.
That's an understatement.
Okay, so there you go.
Uh-huh.
But, I have very strong opinions about certain things
Mhm.
that you're not gonna find on my Facebook page. You're just not. Now, people have different opinions about that. Well, I feel, I should be able to say this, that, and the other. You should. But if you're counting on that audience being as broad as possible,
Mhm. Don't limit yourself.
don't limit yourself.
Yeah, 100%. All right. What is something most people don't realize about running a business in a shifting market? Because you've been through a few shifts.
You should. What do some people not? What is the question?
What is something most people don't realize about running a business in a shifting market?
That it's not the end of the world. It's a shifting market. It's okay. It shift there and it'll shift back again. It's consistency, it's time on the task over time, keeping your nose to the grindstone or whatever that term is. It's just doing all the things. That can be very tough if the bills aren't getting paid. So I realize there has to be a little bit of balance, but, just not letting yourself get commission breath and staying on those tasks, developing those relationships, making sure that people can trust you, they know that you're knowledgeable, and they wouldn't hesitate. Even if they're not looking to buy or sell, they would refer you to someone else.
Mhm.
So I know that is one thing I guess I should emphasize is being extremely knowledgeable about the market. In a shifting market, what was it doing last month? What does it look like it's going to do? Especially if you're farming a specific area, you need to be able to chapter and verse people on what's going on in your neighborhood or in your area. You bump into them in the grocery store and they say, oh my gosh, I saw that new listing on Oak Street. You need to be able to join that conversation.
Mhm.
You need to be able to say, oh, I know, I just went and previewed it the other day. They did the most amazing primary bath remodel. Like, it doesn't matter if that person is looking to buy or sell, or you need to plant in their mind that you know the market.
Mhm.
Did you ever hear about the Jones house? What did that one sell for? You better be able to pull it right off the top of your head. If you are trying to very specifically farm and market to one area, they better not know one detail that you don't know.
Mhm.
Why did they sell? I'm not saying get into gossip, but why did they sell? Where are they going? Have you seen it? And that's where we really focused on in the beginning,
Mhm.
especially, was there wasn't a detail about my farm that you could tell me that I didn't already know.
Cause you're hyper-focused in your own community.
I was initially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Initially, and then I made a very conscious decision several years ago to kind of just live in my community and not necessarily let it be where I lived and not where I worked.
Mhm.
If it came, great, but it's just that too is also a very
Fine line.
definite decision that one has to make. And when that repeat and referral business starts, it spreads you.
Organically it happens.
Organically,
Mhm.
because the repeat client might live in your farm, but they want to refer you to their cousin who lives in Marietta. And then now you've got business in Marietta, so kind of spreads.
Yep. In today's market, when maybe getting to the closing table feels a little more challenging. So, because you've been doing this for a minute, but for those that are newer in the room, how do you consciously get up every day and stay on task? Because I know it's time on task over time. Just sometimes it feels a lot harder or heavier than others, right? So like if we're like we need the next deal and feeling the anxiety of that and just the work, putting the worry aside to make sure that I gotta know that I got these 5 tasks I have to do every day to make sure the pipeline stays fed, even when it's getting harder to get to the closing table. How do you keep that mindset?
Just kind of breaking it down into very small, manageable pieces, so that even at the end of the day, if I haven't done all 5 tasks, I know that the 3 that I did really well. And I was very intentional about it, and that I stayed focused on the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's days, I mean, you feel like I am literally just gonna get up and go step in the ring and get the hell beat out of me again today. I mean, that is what some of these days feel like.
Mhm.
And that's what we do. And you get back in the ring and they knock you around. You take a minute at the end of the day and go, okay, but this thing,
Mhm.
And if it's something as little as, yeah, but I reached out to Stephanie and I said, hey, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. And we had a great conversation. Then that was the win for
Right.
that day. And I just
That's
keep,
feeding the connection.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
feeding the
keep feeding
connection.
that connection.
Yep.
And then if it's clients or transactions that are feeling the problematic or feeling the giving you the angst,
Mhm.
just trying to stay on top of, well, what is the issue?
Right.
How can I answer their question faster than they can ask it of me? Staying ahead of what is their concern gonna be?
Mhm.
You get behind that fear of, I need to call that client and I don't know what to say. And oh my gosh, I really should call them. I promise you, they've already thought of the question. They're already worried about it. And if they call you first about it, it's a way harder conversation.
Mhm.
It's so much harder.
Yeah. Yeah, get the elephant out of the room as soon as you can and control how it's done. Yeah, don't make it awkward. Don't be the elephant. For
Because
sure.
nothing is worse than saying, oh, I was just getting ready to call you
You were next on my list.
about the fact that your
Liar.
house hasn't been shown in 10 days.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard from you. It's been 10 days.
Mhm.
But when you say, oh, I was just getting ready to call you, feels bad to you and it feels bad to them as well.
Mhm. Yeah, keep it real. Yeah, keep it real. For the new agents in the room, because you had day one as well, what do you know today that you wish you had known then?
I know today that I wish it's all gonna be all right.
Mhm.
I mean, the one lost deal or the one hard deal is not the one that's going to break you. You know, they're never gonna end. 21 years later, 22 years later, there's still gonna be some hard deals. There's still gonna be deals that feel like this is the one, this is it, this is my sign. They're gonna break me. And they don't, they won't. You know, You're you're bigger than all of that. It is just a transaction at the end of the day. You're really just selling real estate.
Mhm.
It's just selling real
Just
estate.
selling real estate. I want to let you guys ask some questions, but I do have one question. Because in the room, we have some people that didn't start at KW, but are now at KW. So you've been at this office how long?
Been at this office since 2008, and I was at Sugarloaf prior,
Okay.
since 2004. It's the only, KW Atlanta Partners, the only company I've ever been with.
Okay. All these years, because we are the number one brokerage, as we all know, for the systems, the tools and models, all the things, you know, when you're getting into the business. What made you stay with KW to run your business for 21 years?
The support, the training, the culture. You know, I mean, it's not just lip service, it's a real thing.
Mhm.
When, I'll never forget this, because it's still like burned in my brain. When I joined KW, the script was, we're the 5th largest and fastest growing real estate company in the country. The 5th largest
Mhm.
and fastest growing. And nobody had ever heard of KW in Atlanta. Brian and Marcy had been opened 2004. They'd been open about 4 years. And it was them and it was Sean Rawls.
Yep, that was
And-
it.
And Sean had 2 or 3 offices in
Mhm.
like Sandy Springs, Buckhead area. Brian and Marcy had 3. Snellville, Sugarloaf, and this office. This was we're KW, so we're at 04. So this was their 4th office, and that was it. There were 4
Mhm.
offices open.
Mhm.
Now they own like 87. And so literally, no one had ever heard of Keller Williams, but from day one. Well, and so interesting, I actually did my research and about a lot of different companies on who to join, and I had a very systematic approach, which included calling agents of other brokerages. I called a Century 21 agent in Sarasota, Florida, who had sold my house years prior,
Okay.
and said, if you were just now getting in the business, like, who would you? He said, oh, and he didn't know, and I didn't know. He said, oh, hands down, Keller Williams. And I'm making my notes. I'm like, Keller who? Right. And then I called someone who was a commercial agent. If you were gonna do residential, who would you get in business with? Keller Williams. You know, and then, so
Very cool.
all signs kept pointing back, and then I went online, like, who is Keller Williams? And saw the motto, you know, God first, then family, then business, and I called my husband and I said, I just found who I'm going with. Love that. He's like, what do you mean? I said, 3 different people who are in the business, who are not with Keller Williams, told me I should go with Keller Williams. By the way, they said for their phenomenal training. And they were all from other brokerages.
Mhm.
And then I said, I just pulled them up online and guess what it says on the front page? And I made an appointment and that was it.
That's awesome.
And I never went back.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I never even considered changing.
Mhm. Yeah, because we get a lot, when Kim and I do our appointments, it's that we have the systems, the tools, the trainings and the coaching for brand new agents, but the next question is, what makes people stay? Why do they want to stay? And for those that are in this room, at least for this office, how we run this office and how we love on our people. And I love what I do and, we have a great team. And I think for people that have not been outside of the culture and what that feels like, don't know the difference. But hearing it from people that come in from other areas, they're like, yeah, this is so different. And on a positive note.
Yeah, and it's a very real thing because other brokerages, everything is very, I do it this way. And we're here, you've got Chelsea standing up saying, I found the most fabulous marketing person and she does my stuff and I want your stuff to look as good as mine. What's that?
Yes.
In the parking lot, when I pulled in out here, I got a text from an agent who is a competitor, I mean, here in this office, but she and I are, we kind of run in the same circles and we, sell in the same area. She's like, how should I write this special stipulation for contingency on this, a home sale? And I'm like, sent her a text this long, how to do it, exactly what to say. I answered an email yesterday from an agent who said, what else can I tell my seller? I know that, 2 weeks ago, she did the same thing for me. And I'm in deep dive in doing comps for her. Have you looked at this? What about that? Have you told your seller this? This is something I like to say because she's done the same for me. And
The world of
it
reciprocity.
doesn't exist in other brokerages. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted you, to share that because I didn't know some of that story either.
Yeah.
And I know you've been here for a minute and a lot of agents, are like, how can people stay so long? And I'm like, well, I have not been here as 21 years. So hear it from somebody who has.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything they'd like to ask Stacy? Curious, Bob.
I just really want to add something that Stacy said. When I first got here, I came from the other end of the spectrum. I had been in this world for a long time and I had exposure to a lot of different companies. I wasn't with them. I was just a broker, so I had lots of exposure. And when it came time to make the move, first of all, I knew the leadership. So when I came here, my very first family reunion, my big aha when we were all sharing was exactly what you just said. The fact that people genuinely share and try to build you up as opposed to mantling over their ideas. Yeah,
Look at my
I
paper.
mean, it's a completely different world.
And you may not remember this, but I remember sitting at dinner with you at that first family
I was
reunion.
yeah.
And,
When I
and you
sat
and
there, I was like, what?
and Bob, we literally had this conversation. He goes, the thing that gets me, all you guys are just like sharing your secrets, like they're not secrets. We sat right there and had that conversation. He's like, this is amazing how everybody's just so open book.
Yeah, 100%. Questions? Something you're dying to know, Melissa?
I'm just curious, where you started out as far as your first 3 years versus where you are now, as far as closed contracts,
So,
average sales, that kind of stuff.
so I started in 2004 in the Sugarloaf office. I chatted with a very top producing agent at that time, and she gave me a lot of great guidance about farming my particular neighborhood. And I enjoyed some very big early success, which I guess can be encouraging, but I hesitate to say it because it doesn't happen to everyone. But I kept going to these meetings and people would say, when I started, my first year in the business, my goal was to just make $100,000. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be amazing if I made $100,000 my very first year in the business. But I applied everything that I was taught. I soaked in all the knowledge. I've worked my tail off. And my first year in the business, my GCI was $293,000. So I
In
didn't
2004?
in 2004. Well, at least I take that back. My first full calendar year, because I started late in the year in 2004. So from like September of 4 until, September of 05 or what have you, my first 12 months. I earned $293,000. because I just did everything they told me to do, except for door knocking. I drew the line there. I just did everything they told me to do, every model, every system. I didn't doubt anybody. I did all the follow-up. I just worked my tail off. Probably too much. So, and you know, my kids will tell you it was too much, but they enjoyed the benefit of it. And then, we never really looked back. I was in every imaginable organization. I mean, I was out there. Okay, I wasn't a secret agent. So I coached soccer and I volunteered at church and I volunteered for Girl Scouts and I volunteered at school and I went to book club and I went to Pampered Chef parties and
Tennis.
I would play tennis and I was on the social committee in my neighborhood and I was a volunteer for the swim team. I was everywhere, always with branded merchandise on, always with a name tag on. So I didn't have to talk about real estate, but they knew what I did because I was always there and with something KW on. So the conversations started very naturally. That combining with the marketing and the phone calls and the, you know, so forth and so on. The very, very, very first thing that I did, which I still love, and it wasn't my idea, but it was huge. I sent a letter to my neighborhood or my sphere, or maybe both. Maybe this one I think went to my neighborhood, that just introduced myself, you know, why I picked Keller Williams. Again, I didn't have any experience, so I had to say, Keller Williams is the 5th largest and fastest growing real estate company in the country and why I aligned myself with this company. And I enclosed my business card. I sent it out to everybody. And about 2 weeks later, maybe not even that long, 10 days later, I sent the exact same letter, but I crumpled it up in a ball and then smoothed it out and then hand wrote in the corner, please don't throw this away again.
Ah, clever.
Clever. Nailed it again.
I love that.
Oh, my goodness.
And I swear to y'all, the mail comes to our neighborhood at 3 o'clock without fail. And by 3:15, my phone had rung 4 times. How did you do that? How did you know that? I didn't throw this letter away. It's still sitting beside me. I swear, I could hear people doing this. Stacy, your card is right here by my phone. I did throw the letter away, but I kept the card.
There's your nugget for the day, people.
I'm doing that.
Please, and I just hand wrote, please don't throw this away again.
And where are you today?
Our GCI varies between, about 550 and 7. Depending on, but 7 was a really, really, really overstep. That was like COVID times. We're usually give or take right around 550.
It's pretty good living.
It's been a very, I guess that for me is the thing, like, when you get in the ring and they're beating you up every day, just don't lose sight of it because this is a phenomenal way to make a living. You know, I was in Paris for 10 days in March and I was in Spain and Portugal for 16 days in May. And I'm going to make over $500,000 this year because you can do all of it. You can have it all. You know what I mean? It's just a great way to make a living.
Find the lane
Flexibility.
find the lane that you love and time on task over time.
I want to add something.
Love on your people.
She has a heart. This is where a lot of this comes from. Is she loves on her people and we know that. And so it's a relationship thing and she's really good at that.
Well, it's authentic love. It's not, I need a sale from you love. Yeah, that's the difference. So, I know the difference. Yes.
What is your main technology for reaching your database? And what's your opinion on like sending them happenings around town or cool ideas, how to fix your lawn up, or instead of just barking real estate on?
So I'm
2 questions.
I'm technology illiterate. I am really very pitiful at all of it. So my main thing is texting.
Text,
I
okay,
text and call people.
okay.
I mean, who thought that you'd be around so long that texting was considered old fashioned, but I put the old fashioned away. I call and text people.
They still respond.
Yeah, yeah.
And are you are you disciplined with your schedule? Are you from, 8 to 11, I'm not going to get interrupted. I'm gonna text and email people and call for 3 hours every day.
Sean, I feel like you were put up here to like set me up. Made me look bad.
It was very clear on what I could ask today.
As I told Dara, don't be asking me about my time blocking skills. And then don't be asking me how many calls I make on Monday and Tuesday morning,
I'll stress.
because,
Well, you've earned the right where you are today because you did all those things when you started.
yeah,
Right,
I mean,
I mean-
if I'm being honest, yes, back in the day, yes, I was very time blocked. Every
Got the
morning,
momentum now.
absolutely, and now I enjoy the fruits of that, and so now I am lousy at time blocking.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I work 7 days a week only because I just kind of work when the spirit moves me.
Okay, that's my quote for the day. I'm gonna tell Jason, I'm just gonna work when the spirit moves. He's like, yeah, good luck with that. We're gonna end on that. That was awesome.
Where it's like, I play tennis on Thursday mornings, and I don't mind telling my clients I play tennis on Thursday mornings, because guess what? They can reach me at 9 o'clock at night on Thursday night, because I took the morning off. You know what I mean? So I'm terrible at
Well, you're saying expectations.
traditional
You're saying-
time blocking, but
Okay. You sometimes send them photos of you holding up your racket, so, I'm just,
not that, but
Mhm. That's so funny.
good, that's good.
The spirit moves me. That's fantastic. I'm just gonna write that down.
little tongue in cheek, but.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this. I know, yeah, we don't get to see you a lot, or we can pass in the hallway because you're busy. But we appreciate it. And so just sharing some insight on success. And again, she's in the office, she's right down the hallway. She's accessible. I always encourage all agents, get to know the other people in your office, operate at a high level, ask questions. It sounds like people do reach out to you and ask for help on things.
Mhm.
Guess what? Stacy also shares and will give you any advice that you need or tell you what don't do because she did it and it didn't work. Anything like that, because you've been.
Just don't call me about time blocking.
Right.
Or door knocking.
But yeah,
Or social
anyway,
media.
anyway, thank you for being here. Give her a big round of applause.